Have you ever felt your chest tighten when she takes too long to reply? Be honest. Have you ever stared at your phone, replayed her last message, wondered if you said something wrong? Most men won't admit it, but they have lived there. That quiet fear. That subtle panic. That invisible negotiation happening inside their mind. What if she leaves? What if I'm not enough? What if I lose her? And here's the brutal truth. The moment you start fearing losing her, you slowly begin losing yourself. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But piece by piece. Your standards soften. Your tone changes. Your boundaries blur. Until one day, you realize you are trying harder than she is. But what if I told you something counterintuitive? The day you truly stop fearing her departure is the day she begins to fear yours. Not because you manipulate, but because you finally become unshakable. And that changes everything. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where you will find valuable lessons and tips to help you build a truly lasting love. In today's video, we will explore when you stop fearing losing her, the moment women start fearing losing you, with real stories and insight. Don't miss the advice that can change the way you perceive and live in love. You will definitely feel more comfortable when you find a quiet place and put on your headphones. Let yourself relax and be ready to receive the positive messages in today's video. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's start together. Part 1, the day you stop begging. Let me speak to you not as a guru, not as a dating expert, but as a man who has lost and learned. There was a time in my life when I was afraid of losing a woman. Not because she was extraordinary. Not because she was rare. But because I believed she was my source of happiness. That belief nearly destroyed me. This is the first truth you must understand. The moment you fear losing her, you have already lost yourself. And women feel that loss before you do. I was that man. I used to check my phone every 5 minutes. If she didn't reply, my mind created stories. If she sounded distant, my chest tightened. If she canceled plans, I overcompensated. I became more attentive. More available. More eager. I thought love meant effort. But effort without self-respect is anxiety disguised as devotion. And here's what I learned the hard way. When you fear losing her, you unconsciously communicate. You are the prize. I am lucky you're here. My emotional stability depends on you. No woman says it out loud, but when she senses this imbalance, attraction shifts. Not because she is cruel. Because desire feeds on tension, not submission. The Stoic principle most men ignore. The ancient Stoics understood something most modern men forget. You only suffer when you try to control what is not yours to control. You cannot control her feelings, her choices, her loyalty, her timing. You can only control your response, your standards, your boundaries, your emotional discipline. The moment you internalize this, something changes in your posture. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop performing. You stop chasing reassurance. And when that happens, something subtle, but powerful, begins. She feels it. Fear creates pressure. Women are highly sensitive to emotional pressure. When you fear losing her, you text to relieve your anxiety. You apologize too quickly. You accept behavior that disrespects you. You tolerate inconsistency. And she feels it, not as love, but as weight. Have you ever noticed how someone becomes less interested when they know you won't leave? That's not manipulation. That's human psychology. Scarcity creates value. Certainty kills tension. When you make it clear, through your energy, that you will stay no matter what, You remove the natural polarity that fuels attraction. The turning point. My turning point didn't come from strategy. It came from exhaustion. One day, after another argument where I was trying to fix everything, I stopped. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. I realized. If she leaves, she leaves. If she stays, she stays. But I will not abandon myself to keep someone. That shift was quiet. There was no dramatic speech. No ultimatum. Just calm detachment. I stopped over-explaining. I stopped chasing replies. I stopped trying to win her approval. I focused on my work. My body. My discipline. My peace. And something fascinating happened. She leaned in. Why women start sensing the shift. When you stop fearing loss, 3 things happen. Your tone changes. Your availability adjusts. Your emotional reactions disappear. You become stable, not reactive. And stability is rare. Most men oscillate between over-investing, pulling away dramatically, seeking validation, testing loyalty. But when you become centered, she feels the difference immediately. You are no longer trying to secure her. You are simply choosing her. And there is a massive psychological difference between I need you and I want you, but I don't need you. The first creates comfort. The second creates desire. The paradox of power in love. Here is the paradox that few men understand. The less you try to hold her, the more she feels you slipping. And humans fear losing what feels independent. When you no longer orbit her emotionally. When your mood is no longer dictated by her attention. When your purpose stands taller than the relationship. You become unpredictable in one crucial way. You could walk away. And that possibility awakens something primal. Not fear in a toxic sense. But awareness. She begins to ask herself. Is he pulling away? Is he still invested? Could I lose him? And for the first time, the emotional balance shifts. Detachment is not coldness. Let me be clear. Stoic detachment is not indifference. It is controlled attachment. You still care. You still show up. You still love. But you are not consumed. You don't beg for reassurance. You don't panic over distance. You don't sacrifice your values for temporary peace. You stand firm. And firmness in a man creates emotional gravity. The invisible line. There is an invisible line in every relationship. On one side, attachment fueled by fear. On the other, connection fueled by strength. Most men cross that line without noticing. They give more than they receive. They tolerate more than they should. They hope effort will secure love. But love is not secured through effort. It is sustained through value. And value begins with self-respect. The first realization. The day you truly accept. I will be fine with or without her. You stop negotiating your dignity. You stop shrinking yourself. You stop trying to be irreplaceable. And ironically, that is when you become difficult to replace. In love, sometimes we don't need too many promises, but just a little understanding and a heart that knows how to listen. It is the experiences, both happy and sad, that help us mature and know how to love more fully. Here, I want to contemplate those things with you, so that each step in the journey of love becomes more clear-headed and peaceful. If you feel that what I share is valuable, please click like to support this video. And if this is your first visit, please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss the next insightful perspectives on love. I also really want to hear from you. What do you like most about today's story? Leave a comment below, because who knows, your experience might be a great source of encouragement for someone else who is listening. And now, let's continue to explore what's waiting for you. Part 2, the moment her instinct wakes up. Now let me take you deeper. In Part 1, we talked about the external shift, your behavior, your energy, your posture. Now we enter the invisible battlefield. The psychological mechanism. Because here's the truth most men never understand. A woman does not start fearing losing you because you threaten to leave. She starts fearing losing you when her instinct senses you no longer depend on her. And instinct is everything. Attraction is not logical. It is instinctual. You can argue with logic. You cannot argue with instinct. A woman might tell you, I want a man who is emotionally available. I want reassurance. I want consistency. And she means it. But underneath those words lives something older. Primal. She is wired to feel safe with strength. Not loud strength. Not arrogant strength. But grounded emotional stability. When you fear losing her, your nervous system becomes unstable. You may hide it with confident words. But your eyes betray you. Your tone softens too quickly. Your boundaries blur. And her subconscious registers. This man is emotionally attached to my validation. That weakens polarity. The subtle shift she feels. The day you stop fearing loss, your nervous system slows down. You stop scanning for danger. You stop overanalyzing her tone. You stop adjusting yourself to maintain her interest. And your energy becomes calm. Calm is powerful. Because calm says, I am not threatened. And when a man is not threatened by the possibility of loss, something extraordinary happens. He becomes the emotional anchor. Women test stability, not to manipulate, but to measure. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Every woman tests a man. Not consciously. But instinctively. She may take longer to reply. Challenge your opinion. Cancel once. Withdraw slightly. Not because she wants drama. But because she is asking one question. Is this man emotionally self-controlled? Or will he collapse under uncertainty? When you fear losing her, those small fluctuations trigger you. You double text. You over-explain. You seek reassurance. And the test is answered. But when you stop fearing loss, you don't react. You observe. You remain steady. And that steadiness is rare. Rare creates value. The psychology of emotional scarcity. Let's talk about something most dating advice avoids. Humans value what feels limited. If your attention is unlimited. If your approval is guaranteed. If your presence is unconditional no matter what. There is no psychological tension. You become safe, but predictable. And predictability without strength becomes background noise. But when you emotionally detach from outcome, your attention becomes intentional. You give because you choose to, not because you fear losing access. That changes everything. Now your presence feels earned. Not automatic. And that triggers something inside her. What happens inside her mind? When she senses you no longer revolve around her, 3 internal shifts begin. 1. Curiosity. Why is he different lately? Women are highly perceptive to emotional changes. Your silence feels different. Your voice sounds grounded. Your responses are shorter, but warmer. You're not distant. You're centered. And that unsettles her in a subtle way. 2. Recalibration of value. Before, she felt secure in your attachment. Now, she feels uncertainty. not chaos. Uncertainty. And uncertainty forces evaluation. She begins to measure how much she invests, how much she initiates, how much she risks losing. You are no longer emotionally chasing. So she starts stepping forward. 3. Fear of replacement. This is not about jealousy tactics. It's deeper. When you stop fearing loss, you radiate. I am capable of walking away. And capability is more powerful than threats. She imagines life without you. And that's when the fear activates. Because now, for the first time, she sees the relationship as something she could lose, not something she automatically controls. The power of non-reactivity. Let me share something from experience. The first time I truly stopped reacting, she noticed immediately. She said, "You've changed." I hadn't. I had simply stopped chasing emotional reassurance. I responded slower, not to play games, but because I was busy building my life. I disagreed calmly instead of arguing passionately. I stopped defending myself unnecessarily. And she leaned in. Not because I became colder, but because I became solid. Women feel safe in emotional solidity. And safety mixed with uncertainty creates attraction. The masculine frame. You must understand something critical. When you fear losing her, she becomes the emotional leader. She dictates tone. She sets the rhythm. She controls the tension. But when you stop fearing loss, you reclaim your frame. Not dominance. Stability. You no longer negotiate your standards. You don't argue to be understood. You speak once, clearly. And you let silence do the rest. Silence is powerful when it is not fueled by resentment. The internal work most men avoid. Here is the uncomfortable part. You cannot fake this. If inside you are terrified of abandonment. If your self-worth depends on her staying. If you secretly believe she is your only option. She will feel it. Even if you pretend otherwise. True detachment comes from building a life where your mission excites you. Your body is disciplined. Your finances are progressing. Your mind is calm. Your social world is alive. When your life is full, you don't cling. And when you don't cling, she senses competition, not from other women, but from your purpose. And purpose is seductive. The hidden fear women rarely admit. Here is something most women will never verbalize. They fear being with a man who cannot survive without them. Because that pressure becomes suffocating. But they deeply desire a man who chooses them, even though he could thrive without them. Choice feels powerful. Need feels heavy. When you stop fearing loss, you transform from a man who needs into a man who chooses. And that subtle psychological difference is the birthplace of her fear of losing you. The shift is energetic before it is behavioral. You don't need dramatic moves. No disappearing acts. No jealousy games. No cold shoulder tactics. The shift begins inside. When you truly accept. If she leaves, I remain whole. Your shoulders relax. Your voice deepens. Your reactions slow. And she feels it before she understands it. Women are intuitive readers of emotional energy. And emotional independence reads as strength. Part 3, The Ego Trap, When Power Turns into Arrogance. Now listen carefully. Because this is where most men lose everything they just regained. In Part 1, you stopped fearing loss. In Part 2, you understood the psychological shift inside her. Now comes the dangerous phase. The moment you feel your power returning. She texts first. She invests more. She asks where you've been. Her tone softens. Her effort increases. And something inside you whispers, "Now I have the advantage." That whisper is your ego. And if you follow it, you will destroy the very dynamic you work to build. The subtle corruption of power. When a man has been emotionally dependent for a long time, regaining control feels intoxicating. You suddenly realize. You don't panic anymore. You don't over-explain. You don't chase. And when she begins leaning in, your pride awakens. You may not say it out loud. But you think it. She needs me more now. That thought is poison. Because the moment you start playing power games, you shift from grounded to reactive again. Just in a different direction. Before, you were reacting from fear. Now, you risk reacting from ego. Both are forms of weakness. Stoic strength is quiet, not performative. A Stoic man does not celebrate emotional leverage. He does not exploit it. He does not punish her for past distance. He does not suddenly become cold to teach her a lesson. That is not detachment. That is resentment disguised as control. True detachment is calm. You don't withdraw affection to create insecurity. You don't ignore messages to regain dominance. You don't escalate distance to test her loyalty. Because the moment you start manipulating dynamics, you become dependent again, this time on control. And dependence on control is still dependence. The ego wants revenge. Let me speak from experience. When I first stopped fearing loss, and she began investing more, I made a mistake. I slowed my replies deliberately. I became emotionally distant on purpose. I wanted her to feel what I felt before. I told myself it was balance. It wasn't. It was ego. And something subtle shifted again. Her attraction did not grow. It hardened. She became cautious. Guarded. Because now she sensed instability again, just in another form. Not neediness. But unpredictability fueled by pride. Women do not trust ego-driven energy. They feel it immediately. The difference between detachment and withdrawal. This is critical. Detachment means, I am emotionally whole whether you stay or leave. Withdrawal means, I will reduce affection to control the outcome. Detachment is peaceful. Withdrawal is strategic. And women are extremely sensitive to strategy in emotional dynamics. If she senses you are acting differently to gain power, her instinct shifts from attraction to defense. She stops leaning in. She protects herself. Because no woman wants to feel like she's in a power struggle. She wants polarity. Not competition. The real masculine frame. Let me redefine something for you. The masculine frame is not about dominance. It is about stability. When you regain emotional independence, your responsibility increases, not decreases. Now you must remain consistent. Remain fair. Remain grounded. Even when she leans in. Even when she invests more. Even when she expresses fear of losing you. You do not exploit it. You do not inflate your ego. You stay centered. That calm consistency creates trust. And trust deepens attraction far more than tension alone. Why arrogance destroys polarity? Attraction requires two energies meeting. But arrogance creates hierarchy. The moment you subtly communicate, I am above you now, polarity collapses. Because polarity thrives on respect. Not superiority. If she feels inferior, she won't chase harder. She will detach emotionally. Slowly. Silently. And you won't even realize it until warmth disappears. Remember this. Women are not attracted to men who dominate emotionally. They are attracted to men who master themselves. Self-mastery is magnetic. Dominance is exhausting. The calm man is unshakable, not unavailable. There's another trap. Some men confuse stoicism with emotional numbness. They become hard to read, emotionally cold, unresponsive. They think mystery equals power. It doesn't. Mystery without warmth feels unsafe. And safety is essential for feminine attraction to deepen. The ideal state is this. You are emotionally warm, but not emotionally dependent. You are expressive, but not reactive. You are present, but not clingy. You are capable of walking away, but you are not threatening to. That balance is rare. And rarity builds value naturally. The test after the shift. Once she senses your new stability, another subtle test often appears. She may increase affection suddenly. Express vulnerability. Ask about your feelings more deeply. Bring up the future. This is not manipulation. This is calibration. She is trying to understand. Is this new version of him safe to invest in? If you respond with arrogance, if you act indifferent, if you minimize her vulnerability, you fail the test. Not because you weren't strong, but because you weren't grounded. Strength without groundedness feels volatile. And volatility kills long-term attraction. The internal discipline required. Staying detached is easy when she's distant. It's harder when she leans in. Because now your ego wants validation. It wants to feel chosen. It wants to feel powerful. The Stoic path requires something deeper. Emotional neutrality toward praise and fear alike. If she fears losing you, you do not celebrate. If she pulls away slightly, you do not panic. You remain stable, centered, unmoved by extremes. That consistency builds emotional gravity. And gravity sustains attraction longer than tension ever could. The true power shift. Here's the final truth of this stage. The real power is not that she fears losing you. The real power is that you no longer measure your worth by her reactions. If she invests more, you appreciate it, calmly. If she invests less, you observe it, calmly. You respond according to your standards, not your emotions. And when a woman realizes, this man's behavior does not fluctuate with my moods, she relaxes. Because she finally feels something rare. Emotional leadership. Not control. Not dominance. Leadership. Love is actually like a mirror reflecting the inner self. When we are calm enough, we will realize that every challenge, every silence carries a valuable lesson. And that is what I want to convey through each story on this channel. If you feel that these shares bring value, please leave a like to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe, because who knows, one day, just a small idea from these videos can change the way you look at love, at yourself. Let's continue with me, because there are many interesting things waiting for you to discover. Part 4, The Power of the Man Who Can Walk Away. Now we arrive at something deeper. Not strategy. Not tactics. Not psychological tricks. But capacity. The capacity to walk away. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Not to prove a point. But calmly. Because you know your value does not depend on anyone staying. This is the quiet power that changes everything. Walking away is not about leaving. Most men misunderstand this. They think being willing to walk away means threatening distance, creating ultimatums, withdrawing affection suddenly, making her jealous. That is insecurity in disguise. True capacity to walk away is internal. It is the calm awareness that I desire you deeply, but I will not betray myself to keep you. And when a woman feels that energy, something shifts inside her nervous system. Because she understands, consciously or not, that you are not trapped. And people value what is not trapped. Why commitment follows strength. Let's talk honestly. Women do not commit harder because you give more. They commit harder because they feel safe investing in your stability. If you cannot survive her leaving, she will hesitate to give herself fully. Why? Because deep down, she fears becoming your emotional oxygen. And no one wants that responsibility. But when you are emotionally sovereign, when your purpose, discipline, and identity exist beyond the relationship, she feels free to attach. Because attachment no longer feels like control. It feels like choice. And choice is powerful. The psychological safety of a grounded man. There is a paradox here. When you can walk away calmly, she feels safer staying. Because she senses. You are not staying out of fear. You are not staying out of scarcity. You are not staying because you have no options. You are staying because you want to. And voluntary presence is deeply attractive. It signals abundance. Not necessarily abundance of women. But abundance of self-worth. The exact behaviors that signal quiet strength. Let me make this practical. A man who can walk away without threatening it behaves differently in subtle ways. He does not argue endlessly to win. Chase explanations when energy shifts. Beg for reassurance. Tolerate repeated disrespect. Instead, he states his standard once. Observes actions. Adjusts accordingly. Withdraws calmly if necessary. Notice the key word, calmly. No dramatic speech. No emotional explosion. No revenge energy. Just clarity. And clarity is intimidating, in a good way. Because it reveals you are not confused about your worth. The day I walked away without drama. There was a relationship in my past where I finally understood this. She began pulling away. Hot and cold behavior. Inconsistency. Old version of me would have. Overanalyzed. Confronted emotionally. Tried harder. This time, I did something different. I invited her to talk calmly. I said, I care about you. But I don't operate in inconsistency. If this isn't aligned, I understand. No pressure. No anger. No threat. Just a boundary. And then I leaned back into my life. No chasing. No bitterness. Two things happened. First, she felt the shift immediately. Second, she realized I was not negotiating my standards. And for the first time, she had to choose. Not manipulate the dynamic. Choose. That is where real attraction matures. Why fear of losing you awakens commitment. When she senses you can leave peacefully, her mind begins asking deeper questions. Am I investing enough? Is he feeling valued? Would another woman appreciate him more? Am I taking him for granted? These thoughts don't arise because you pressured her. They arise because your stability forces evaluation. And evaluation triggers emotional investment. Because once something feels like it could be lost, truly lost, the brain shifts from complacency to protection. But here's the key. It only works when it's real. If you bluff walking away, she will sense it. If you threaten leaving but stay every time, your words lose weight. A man who can walk away does not talk about it often. He simply lives in a way that makes it obvious. The energy of non-attachment. Non-attachment is misunderstood. It does not mean You don't care. You don't love deeply. You don't desire commitment. It means you love fully without clinging. You desire without dependency. You invest without self-abandonment. That energy creates polarity. Because feminine energy naturally leans toward depth when it feels masculine stability. And stability requires detachment from outcome. The silent increase in her effort. When she realizes you are not trapped, something subtle happens. She begins to initiate more. Share more vulnerability. Seek reassurance from you. Increase physical and emotional closeness. Not because she feels controlled, but because she feels the stakes. Before, she may have felt he won't leave. Now she feels he could leave, and he would be okay. That awareness awakens effort. And effort deepens attachment. The danger of overusing this power. Here is a warning. Some men, once they feel this shift, start manufacturing distance to keep her slightly anxious. That destroys trust. Long-term attraction thrives on stability, respect, emotional safety. Not constant tension. The ability to walk away is a safety valve. Not a weapon. You don't wave it around. You don't remind her of it. You simply embody it. And because you embody it, she feels it. The deeper truth. The ability to walk away calmly is not about controlling her fear. It is about eliminating your own. Once your fear dissolves, you stop negotiating your identity. You stop tolerating what diminishes you. You stop shrinking to be loved. And in that grounded state, something extraordinary happens. She begins to invest not because she is afraid, but because she respects you. And respect is the foundation of lasting desire. Part 5, The Man Whose Absence is Felt. Now we come to the final layer. Not tactics. Not leverage. Not psychological triggers. But legacy. Because at the highest level, this was never about making her fear losing you. It was about becoming the kind of man whose absence creates silence in the room. There is a difference. One is manipulation. The other is gravity. And gravity does not beg. When you no longer play the game. At this stage, something inside you has stabilized. You don't monitor her investment anymore. You don't measure who texts first. You don't calculate emotional advantage. You simply observe. If she moves closer, you welcome it calmly. If she pulls away, you remain composed. If she disrespects you, you address it once. If it continues, you leave. Not angrily. Not dramatically. But decisively. Because now your identity is not built on being chosen. It is built on self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of masculine peace. Love without fear is different. When you stop fearing loss, something surprising happens. You actually love better. Because fear distorts love. Fear makes you overprotective, jealous, possessive, reactive. But when fear dissolves, love becomes cleaner. You appreciate her presence without clinging. You enjoy intimacy without anxiety. You support her without losing yourself. And she feels the difference. Women are deeply responsive to emotional clarity. When your affection is no longer fueled by insecurity, it feels safe. And safety allows depth. The balance most men never master. Here is the final paradox. If you detach too much, you become cold. If you attach too much, you become weak. The balance is this. Emotionally invested. Emotionally independent. You care, deeply. But your stability does not depend on her mood. You show affection, freely. But you do not chase validation. You communicate, clearly. But you do not argue for acceptance. This balance creates what I call calm intensity. And calm intensity is magnetic. Because it combines warmth with strength. What devotion actually comes from? Many men chase admiration. They want to be praised, desired, prioritized. But devotion does not come from trying to be impressive. It comes from being consistent. A woman commits deeply when she feels. You are stable under pressure. You do not collapse emotionally. You do not weaponize silence. You do not explode under insecurity. You do not shrink under challenge. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds attachment. Attachment builds devotion. Not fear. Respect. When she truly fears losing you, there is a moment, and you will recognize it. She becomes softer. More attentive. More invested in your emotional state. She checks in. She initiates more often. She becomes protective of the connection. Not because you demanded it, but because she senses your absence would not be chaotic. It would be quiet. And quiet loss is the most powerful kind. A man who leaves in anger is easy to dismiss. A man who leaves peacefully is unforgettable. The quiet discipline behind it all. None of this works without internal work. Let me be honest. If you are still secretly afraid of being alone, if you still measure your worth by female validation, if you still believe love is scarce, you will struggle to hold this frame. The foundation is built outside the relationship. Your discipline. Your body. Your purpose. Your friendships. Your financial direction. Your emotional regulation. When your life is full, you don't grip. When you don't grip, you attract. Because relaxed confidence signals abundance. And abundance reduces pressure. The final transformation. At the beginning of this journey, you feared losing her. Your thoughts revolved around. What if she leaves? What if she finds someone better? What if I'm not enough? Now the questions are different. Am I aligned with my standards? Is this relationship adding peace or draining it? Are we growing together? Do you see the shift? The focus moved from her validation to your alignment. And that shift changes everything. The man she doesn't want to lose. The man she fears losing is not the richest, the loudest, the most dominant, the most mysterious. It is the man who is calm under emotional pressure, speaks clearly and briefly, does not beg, does not threaten, does not manipulate, does not cling, does not tolerate disrespect, loves deeply without surrendering himself. That man is rare. And rarity creates value. The ultimate Stoic truth in love. The Stoics understood something timeless. You cannot control whether someone stays. You can only control who you are while they are there. And when who you are is solid, grounded, disciplined, and emotionally free, you no longer chase love. You become worthy of it. And when a woman feels she is with a man who would be fine without her, but chooses her daily, without fear, without pressure, without ego, she invests. Because she understands something profound. He is not with me because he needs me. He is with me because he values me. And value is the purest foundation of attraction. The closing truth. Let me leave you with this. The goal was never to make her afraid. The goal was to remove your fear. Because when your fear disappears, your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your boundaries strengthen. Your reactions soften. Your standards solidify. And slowly, almost invisibly, the dynamic shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you became unshakable. And when a man becomes unshakable, he stops asking, will she stay? And starts living as if he already has himself. That is the real power. And from that place, love is no longer a negotiation. It is a choice. Made freely. Every day. Conclusion. In the end, this was never about making her afraid. It was about freeing yourself. When you feared losing her, you were already living in scarcity. You were negotiating your standards. You were shrinking your truth. You were loving from anxiety instead of strength. And anxiety always leaks. But the moment you truly accept that you will be fine, with her or without her, something fundamental changes inside you. Your love becomes cleaner. Your presence becomes calmer. Your words carry weight. Your silence carries confidence. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop performing for validation. You stop tolerating what diminishes you. And paradoxically, that is when she begins to feel the shift. Not because you threatened to leave. Not because you played games. But because you removed neediness from the equation. A woman does not deeply invest in a man who is afraid of losing her. She invests in a man who could walk away peacefully, but chooses to stay. That is the difference between attachment and strength. When you no longer cling, your presence becomes a privilege. When you no longer fear abandonment, your energy becomes stable. When you no longer beg for love, your love becomes valuable. The real power in love is not control. It is composure. And the day you stop fearing loss is the day you stop losing yourself. From that place, attraction is no longer forced. It is felt. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. Hopefully the sharing about love and lessons from this video will help you have new thoughts and find empathy. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with those around you. Each of us has our own stories about love, and I'm happy to explore them with you. See you in the next videos. Wishing you a wonderful day filled with love.